Hi folks, this is Darren from My RV Works. Today we're in Whiskey Creek RV Park, which is just north of Joyce, Washington, on that road that goes out to the most northwestern point. And it's a pretty day, beautiful day. We got Canada behind us, right over there somewhere. And so what we're working on today is a Dometic situation here. Dometic, the thermostat has no power. The air conditioner has no power, furnace has no power, but the coach has power. So is this something as simple as a blown fuse? Is it a bad wire? We don't know. And what we're going to be working on here is one of these little clippers. These are the kind that kind of fold down a little bit. And so let's take you inside and show you what we're dealing with. Okay, so here we have the thermostat, and there's no display. Even when I turn it on, normally you see little green arrow lights lighting up. And so we'll pop this thing off. We'll get our meter here, and we'll set our meter to DC, and inside here we have some wiring. Now we've got a 12, we're looking for 12 volts here, plus, minus, and common. Okay, so let's see if we can do this always one-handed. It's never fun. Okay, so I expect 12 volts there. I don't have it. And next what I want to do is am I getting 12 volts but I've lost a ground? And so for ground, we need to find, well, this could be a ground right here. But I like to find receptacles. So I'm going to look around here and see if I can find a receptacle to plug in one into my meter, because the ground pin on a receptacle would be great for my little black meter lead right here. We could also use a door frame, but boy, I know that a good ground would be that negative pin on that receptacle. So we're going to look for that. Okay, so I found a receptacle back there, and I've got this little pigtail thing with connectors on the end, and I can just take my meter and plug it into the green wire, which would be ground in this plug. If we were in Europe, I think they use brown and blue, minus the negative being blue and the positive being brown, but here we use white and black, but green is ground. Enough on that. So now that we know our meter is grounded and we are in the DC mode right there, it says DC, we can now come over here and check these two pins, and I'm looking at my meter while I'm doing this, and so that tells me I'm not getting 12 volts here. I'm not getting a good, I'm getting, let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. I'm getting the same reading on this thermostat referencing a known good ground as I was when I was referencing the ground here, okay? And so I'm not getting voltage here. So this thermostat gets its power directly from the air conditioner over there. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in there, we're going to look inside, we're going to look for a little box in there that has these wires connected to it, and we'll go to that point. So you lift up the bed there, and down here is the back of the air conditioner. Let's see here. The control board we're after is way back up in there. Nice and fun to get to. I don't think I can get the camera. So what we're looking for is in there. We need to verify power is going to it. But here we have all of our wiring coming from the fuse panel of the thermostat. So we, and in fact, this orange wire here that we're digging out is the one that is going to go to the thermostat. So everything's labeled here. So next we will decipher these tags and verify we have 12 volts at least at this point, and see if we can figure out where the wire's broken or what's wrong with this thing. So stand by. We're on our journey, and we're following the trail of 12 volts. Where does the 12 volts go? We need to verify that the 12 volts gets here, and then it can leave. But and by the way, we've already checked the fuses, so that was the first thing we did before we even started all this. So I didn't think I mentioned that earlier. So, but everything's labeled here. Like here, this one even says 12 volts to thermostat, and this one says 12 volt supply. So we're expecting to get 12 volts on this wire right here. And so let's dig in a little bit this. I kind of need both hands to do this work, and we'll let you know what we find. Okay, so I've got my meter in the 12 volt supply and the ground, and the meter is showing 0 when I plugged them in. So that tells us that the 12 volts never even made it this far. So what we need to do is we need to go upstream and find out what the problem is. So what we might do is start at the fuse panel and see if there's a problem at the fuse panel. We know that the fuses are good and the power is leaving the fuse panel, but there may be a problem behind the fuse panel where the wire wasn't seated correctly and it came out. So we're going to pull back from working on this end. We'll go to the other end where the fuse panel is. I mean, it's not that big if it's right back there. So let's go check that and see if it's leaving there. And so what we're dealing with here is we're trying to corner this beast. We know it's not making it here. Is it leaving there, and is it broken somewhere between the two? Is kind of where there's like a million ways to go after this, but I'm going to be very linear and very methodical in my approach. So it's not here. Let's go to the fuse panel. Is it leaving there? Let's eliminate that. If it is leaving there, then we have this fancy meter where we can determine length. But when it's such a short RV, it might not help us too much, but we'll see what we can find. Okay, but point is 0 volts at this point. So the problem is not here. The problem's upstream of the air conditioner. Okay, we've gained access to the DC side because we're looking for 12 volts, which is going to be coming from right there. And back behind there, they're all soldered to the front. So what we're going to do next, ouch, is hit our head on the table there. We're going to pull the whole thing out and look for some wires there. Unless this, okay. We might just pop that up and see what we can find behind there. Okay, it turns out if we take the pads off and we take the plywood base off, we have a whole new world in there. Darren's world, yay. So right down in there, we see where all the wires are they use those little cap crimp connectors. So next we're gonna, what we might do is, let me look at something here. I'm looking at the, yeah, they're not calling any of these out saying it is furnace or air conditioner or anything like that. It just says DC circuit. So I'm not seeing any clues. So we'll just check them all. But we'll check all those connectors to see if we have a loose wire down in there. And if we do, we'll let you know. But what I'm expecting is everybody's going to be happy, but I think we're going to find one guy that's not happy down there. So let's go see if we can apply some Darren love and some Darren therapy to see if we can figure out what's going on down there. All right, here's where the trail is leading me. This purple wire is the one that says 12 volts from supply. So we're going to follow the purple wire. The purple wire goes, you know, back yonder. But anyway, if we come over here, look, we got a purple wire again. And here it is coming from the furnace. It makes a stop off right here. So there we are. Okay. So remember the problem was the furnace isn't working, the refrigerator, none of the things are working. So this purple wire, if I had 12 volts on this, look, I'm going to tap off of this wire here, go through that fuse to the furnace. So let's continue following this purple wire. And it went into the wall there, and I was like, what the heck does that go? I went outside, didn't see anything. But look here, I've got some little push buttons, okay? So that when this unit is folded down, it interrupts the power, okay? So we're going to look here, purple wire again, and see if the problem might not be in this switch right here. So what I'm hoping is I have 12 volts on one side, but maybe not the other. Therefore, it'd be the switch. So let's check that next. But that's where the trail has led us so far. Okay, now I've already checked this, so I know the answer, but let's discover it together. So when one end of my meter is grounded, okay, so when I touch the top pin, I have my 12 volts, okay? When I touch the bottom pin, I have 0. So we have found where the guy's hiding. We need to get him through this switch here. So the switch has failed. So what I want to do is unplug these. This one's hot, so it's 12 volts, so it's not going to hurt me. I'm going to unplug this. I'm going to connect them together to see if everything is going to magically work. And if it does, we know that this is the guy. So you see I've just kind of bundled them together right there. And let's touch. There's our 12 volts. So now let's go back over to the air conditioner. Actually, let's just go to the thermostat. Let's go there right now. And got to unfold ourselves from that little hole right there. So what we expect to see... There we go. We're working. So we found the problem. Okay, we have a Celsius there, so you just touch these two buttons right there, and it changes it over to Fahrenheit. Okay, and furnace. Let's see if we can get this to work for us. I want to call for heat. It's 77. Okay, let's see if the furnace will start. And then we know we've got our problem fixed. I heard a click. There's our furnace. So everything's working. Okay, so we can turn that back off. So the problem is that plunger switch. So now that we've found it, let us Some kind of zoom action there. Let's play with that switch right there and see if we can't get everything working for us. Okay, I took that switch off and brought it into my... I couldn't get it to work correctly in its position, so a couple screws I was able to take it out, and let me show you what it's doing. I mean, I'm not even touching this thing, and this... Watch the... So what we want is we want it to beep constantly, but we want this to say 0 right here. 0 resistance. I don't want any resistance to this thing, so there's a... Hold on. There we go. So, look at that. That thing's jumping all over. I'm not even touching it. So, 27 ohms. So here's what would happen. I want that to be 0 ohms. But see that number that's changing right there? Let me turn the beep off. How do I shut it up? Oh, look at that. So an electron traveling through a wire generates no heat. It generates heat when it's confronted with resistance. And we see like, what, 20 ohms of resistance or 30 ohms of resistance. So that's going to create heat. So the switch is going to get hot. And it could fail because of the heat. And who's to say that that's not what caused this to fail to begin with? Was that resistance? We want 0 resistance to this switch. And we're getting resistance to the switch. See, that's jumping 40 ohms, 44 ohms. So that's a value of resistance through that switch without me touching anything. Anyway, switch is bad, and I've tried to resurrect it, but give it another lease on life, but we'll get a new one. Okay, so we'll get a new one on order. We know that fixed the problem with the furnace and the thermostat and the air conditioner. All right, well, thanks for watching. Happy camper, say my RV works.